All right. Welcome to the latest episode of Inside the Wave. Today I am with longtime friend Keith Shimon. And Keith is the founder and owner, one of the owners of Body Activation in Mequon. I actually met Keith because he enrolled his son into our jiu-jitsu program years back.
Been a long time, yeah.
When was that? Like 2018?
Yeah, that's before. That would have been like 2016, maybe.
Damn, it's been a long time.
Yep.
And I'll let Keith give his background, but man, like I don't even know. People ask me, what does Keith do? And I'm like, he just does shit that works, whatever's effective. And it's like the thing I appreciate about you, it's always changing, and it's always evolving, right? Like you get new pieces of information, you work it in. But I like to tell people, at least in the terms that the average person knows, you're kind of like where a personal trainer, a physical therapist, someone who helps people heal, like you kind of live at the cross sections of those. But like, how do you describe yourself, and like, what is your formal background?
Excellent question. My background, I started out in exercise and sports science at La Crosse University. Cool. With a specialization in advanced strength and conditioning. So I went to school to train elite level athletes is really what my background was. I went to do an graduate assistantship at a place called the International Performance Institute, where I studied speed underneath Lawrence Seagrave. He's basically the inventor of speed work in the United States.
Like sprint speed work?
Yeah. Like, so people that want to get faster, he's actually...
I should probably hang out with that guy.
He went to Madison. So
okay, wow.
He actually got a degree in, I think it was chemistry, I believe.
Yeah.
So, but he invented these different techniques. He created something called speed dynamics. I was fortunate enough to study underneath a whole bunch of elite level strength coaches there for years. Started a business there with a colleague named Pete Bomarito. He still trains usually around 20 to 30 NFL combine guys a year, and they have around 100 to 150 NFL vets. So we've been in the elite level training game for a long time. I broke off in early parts of my career, went back to massage therapy school, got my massage therapy license, went through the whole gamut of something called muscle activation techniques. And what's interesting, it all led me to where I am now, which is exactly what you said, the crossroads of how does exercise help recover and restore a human is really what it is. And what I think people take for granted is this idea that they can just do random things that are healthy and they're going to get where they want to be. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. So you're talking about like your average person. Oh, I should strength train 2 days a week. I should do some like massage, long endurance. There's all these different tools in the toolbox, and you need to be using the tools correctly.
Right.
And that correct usage might be different for me than it is for you, or it is different, right?
Well, there's a sense of overwhelm for a lot of people, or underwhelm. Early in my career, it's like we were very fortunate that the tools that we used resulted in 5 years in a row of the fastest person at the NFL Combine in their respected field. So it brought a name to our business, and it really took off. We were mentioned top 10 winners of the NFL draft by ESPN one year, which was really, really interesting, right? And but that led me to understand that you just can't throw the whole toolbox at something. It's about, are there signs? Is there a way to detect what it is you need when it's appropriate?
Yeah.
And that's the toughest part of healing, and also of recovery, but more importantly, of the word adaptation. And what you're really looking for is a stimulus and an adaptation when it comes to exercise.
Awesome. So you're the way you've like gone about learning and gone about business, like you've changed a lot over the years, where I know you've done a lot of like the elite athlete. Now you have a gym in suburbia, Wisconsin, right? And you still get, I know you get MLB players in there, and you go travel with MLB players, but like your average daily Joe that's seeing you as a client nowadays, like what does that look like? And why did you go down, kind of veer off the path of just specializing in professional athletes and kind of helping out everyone.
Well, I mean, if anyone with training athletes, you know what the hours are. Number one,
Yeah.
It's like usually what the way that those business models are set up is you got your beginning group that starts around 6 a.m. And then you have maybe some kids groups that come in.
Yeah.
Then you have the filler of the day with more clients. Then we had colleges that we had our collegiate players came in that we did side contracts with. More pros that came in later, and then we had youth groups at night. So you're going from 6 a.m. till about 8.
And you're getting a spectrum of clientele in there, right? You're not just dealing with because I'm sure there's people out there that I specialize in NFL linemen, right? So at least you're dealing with probably running backs in different positions, but then also youth in different ages, which are going to have different needs.
8 years old.
Yeah, wow.
And they're starting at 8 years old. So we had one of the things that I studied in my undergrad was human development. So a lot of it was, okay, what type of stimuli is important at what levels of life? But then that started to shift when my father stopped breathing. So all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is not about elite level performance. This could be a life and death scenario when it comes to how somebody uses their body, and all of a sudden they can't, right? So my father, he was about 20 years ago now. He was diagnosed with ALS. He passed away now 17 years ago. But it made a huge shift into me understanding how somebody adapts, how somebody may not adapt, and then what may happen neurologically, orthopedically, and or metabolically that would stop someone. So when would exercise actually help that? And when would it just not? When could actually hurt somebody and make them not recover?
Yeah.
So,
and you've helped me on the spectrum. We work out every Saturday.
Yep.
Looking to elevate my level of performance, but then you've also helped me keep on the mats and stay in performance, but also get back on the mats after injuries, right? In the sport I'm in and being in grappling for so long, everyone's life takes a different toll on each other. And that's something I've learned from you. You could have stubbed your toe when you were 6, and that can show up when you're 35, right? Your body holds the trauma behind events.
You hit the nail on the head. Something that's been very apparent recently is the idea of there was a book called The Body Keeps the Score. That really set the tone for how is the body learning through trauma. And it learns really quickly through trauma. And what we're aware of versus what happens below the radar non-consciously, I'd say a majority of life is non-conscious, where you don't have to worry about breathing. You don't have to worry about pushing red blood cells through your body. You don't have to worry about your heart beating. You're just aware of what the day-to-day is and how things change. What we look for tells. Look for what is your body trying to say, what is it trying to do, and we're just taking better notes than a majority of people that are in our industry, where it's like they're making assumptions about things that we just don't believe are happening. And that comes down to when something is hurt, it's now modified. It's not like it's going to go back to what it was.
Yeah.
I think it's permanently modified, and now it could end up that when you now have a change in it, it may not have been that strong to begin with. It may not have been that calibrated to begin with. You may not have had a lot of tissue genetically and predisposed to it. So it's like, okay, what can we make it now?
Yeah.
And now what's the other side of the coin, where it's like, how optimistic can I be? Like Greg Lehman says, what is my movement optimism? What can I do right now? And if you can shift towards what can I do right now, you can get granular with it and use exercise for what I believe its most powerful aspect is now. And that's why we've reduced everything to exercise rather than massage and all these other modalities, is because I firmly believe that exercise is the only modality that can build tissue and help you learn to move through space.
Yeah. Can we, and I'm sure you have a great definition of it, but can we define what exercise is?
For sure. I mean, it's a very simple definition that I like, and there's so many complex definitions. It is when you provide a stimulus or take a stimulus away to create a specific adaptation.
So I get adding a stimulus, right? That could be like putting weight on something or even engaging a muscle, right? Would that be a stimulus too?
Yeah.
Like if I just sit here and I flex my biceps at the camera.
Or
right?
your intention.
But what does taking away a stimulus look like? What's an example?
Yeah. So say when somebody comes in and they're like, well, what's your day-to-day like? And every day you are doing a job where
sit at a computer.
You're just sitting like this.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, what if you stood up?
Yeah.
Right. And then sat down. And then you decided to stand on one leg or you walked on a treadmill.
Got it. So because I am sitting at a computer all day, there's likely certain muscles and parts of my body that I wouldn't be using like they were meant to be used.
Right. Because the only thing that we're really looking at is how are you holding your body in space and how does that relate to how you feel?
Awesome. So let's talk about why, just real quick, I want to give an overview about why I'm having you on the podcast, because I think this is a really great point, right? You've trained like the whole spectrum, from focusing a lot in elite athletes to people that are really struggling in their lives to do anything, right? Yeah. In our world of jiu-jitsu, especially adults, right? And I know you deal with youth too, and we definitely touch on youth, but like typically adults are 35, 40, haven't exercised in years, looking to get into jiu-jitsu. So like that's one stage, right? And then we get people that are starting to do jiu-jitsu that, they want to be able to get into more different positions, right? They haven't injured anything yet, or maybe they're injured and they need to come back. But, sometimes you see a move and you're like, I just can't get my body into that position quite yet. I'm not strong. I'm not comfortable, whatever it might be. Yeah. But then you also get the whole peak performance. Like, hey, I'm getting ready for a competition. I want to go win a tournament, whatever it might be. And I think there's a very broad spectrum that we can talk about. But I would love to touch on kind of, bits and pieces of all of those as we look into the journey of an athlete from.
I think that like we're a majority of the people that come in, and what they're really looking to do is there's something that's keeping them from doing the thing that they love, right? So number one, it's defining what it is that you want to be able to do. And what somebody wants to be able to do usually has a motion to it or a position. Right. So, and if those positions aren't controlled well, people are going to have problems.
What do you mean by controlling a position?
Fantastic. I love it. So in jiu-jitsu, how do you get somebody to submit?
Overextension, over rotation, tickling them.
It's all the tickles. Right?
Or like choking or
asphyxiation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So anything that renders someone incapable of control. Right. Okay. So they can't control their bodies with either blood flow or they're beyond the control continuum of the materials of their arm, materials being skin, ligament, bone, tendon, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Right. So there's a certain spectrum that everybody has control over. What we use exercise for at any level is to try to define that continuum. And then it relates to the person of how they feel as they're going through those control continuums. And what's really cool is that you can take very simplistic structures and say, well, if I'm going to bend my elbow here, this is the load I can use. This is how long I can do it for. And this is how I felt. And the next day, this is how I recovered. It's really simplistic. But there's also a ton of variability, which gives you even more transfer to everything else that you want to do. Because if you're not going to use it, you'll lose it.
Got it. So maybe it's a good example, and maybe you can help me like quantify this. But I actually just we did combat week this last week at our gym where we do jiu-jitsu, but we put on gloves, we use fake knives, and we take jiu-jitsu back to like the self-defense world. And
getting all stabby.
Yeah. Well, we're all jiu-jitsu athletes trying to do all of that other stuff, right? So it's really challenging for someone, especially if they're not that good at jiu-jitsu yet. They need to try to like think about everything versus, just jiu-jitsu. It's hard to focus on 18 things at once. It's like running while throwing a baseball and swinging a bat, and like it's hard to do if you don't know how to run in the first place, right?
Yeah.
But one of my students came to me and he's like, dude, man, my lats are so sore from class last night. And I was like, I don't know if I've ever done jiu-jitsu and have had my lats get sore.
Hmm.
And I'm like, also we're doing, most of the class, because we're doing punching, there's a lot of extension in that class,
Yeah.
right? Not as much of like pulling. A lot of times when we're wearing the gi, we end up pulling on the uniform a lot. But it was no gi. And I was like, wow, why would this guy's lats be so sore after a class?
Yep.
And is that because he might not have as much control over that as normal? Like, is that a way for him to identify a weakness that he should be working on?
No, that's a fantastic point. There are so many different pieces of control continuums, and the way to identify it, number one, is having a method to debrief what's going on, right? So exercise is one way to debrief positions. It's like, okay, this arm is doing great with this curl, this one not so good.
Yeah.
I'm bringing my arm out to the side. That's okay. That's not so okay. If I recover, what did I do the day before? And does that relate to soreness in specific positions? But also remember that control is also about how we detect our environment. So eyes are going to matter. Hearing's going to matter. Like mouth control, TMJ, is going to matter. Your inner ear is going to matter. Your hands and your feet, the sensors on there, they're going to matter, because it's all combining of how you're taking info from the environment to create a solution. And how you recover from that solution is going to be your adaptation.
Yeah.
So it can be complex, but to simplify it, it's like, man, I got to try to make something repeatable. And that's why I like having a grid, something really simple to do, of being able to then flush out that information to see how I'm controlling it. Lastly, most people try to shove themselves into positions. That's why I'm in such a huge favor of trying to control loads in positions rather than the stretch. It's not really any different than overloading the end range in a submission, right?
Okay.
So if you want to train getting like submitted, great, then I can overcome an armbar or whatever. But it's like, if I want to then have strength in that range of motion, I better load it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of, maybe not a lot, but there's a lot of spots in jiu-jitsu where you're like at that tipping point of a submission, right?
Yep.
And hopefully you can see the other side of it without A, getting tapped out, and B, walking away with a minor or even major injury, right? I know escapes, we have one from an armbar that's called a hitchhiker escape, where someone's trying to get my arm straight, I'm holding it, and I actually let them get it straight, but because the fulcrum's here, I'm going to turn my elbow and roll out, so they start bending my arm the other way. But there's this like split second where I need to be able to bear that load or potentiality of load till I can roll out.
Or it's going to get bent to a way it doesn't bend.
Yeah.
And then that's exactly what I'm talking about. So the simplicity of it, you don't have to be have like a PhD in physiology and anatomy to know exactly how your body bends, right?
I tell people that all the time. Like, you guys know elbows primarily forward and back. You know how you win jiu-jitsu? Make it go further than it's supposed to.
Right.
Like, you know how your shoulder goes? Just make it go a little bit further.
But who's training internal rotation?
Yeah.
Like who's training going all the way across the body? Who's adding torso rotation to it?
If you think about your average adult doing sports, right? Whether it be tennis or golf or jiu-jitsu being complex, you have adult hockey, which is terrifying, whatever it might be. If, most of those adults are just training their sport. If anything, they're also just lifting, but it's like a standard lifting program, right?
It's like very standard,
right? It's like your bench, your squat, maybe some unilateral machine work and stuff like that. But to your point, like, if people are training flies, they're probably just flying right here. But you're talking about like, I should be going through different ranges that we might see in our activity.
Yeah, it's like, why are there any types of rules when it comes to exercise rather than exploration? And then observing what happened, right? That's why the process of writing down, just like we've done it and lifted before, is so powerful. It's just writing something down, like having a process to know what happened previously so that you can you can expand upon it.
Yeah.
And because I can't tell you how many times I wish I got paid every single time I asked this question, was like, okay, so what do you do for exercise? And like, well, I run.
Yeah.
Well, I bike. And I'm like, that's not exercise. That's an activity.
Yeah.
It's fun. You can get fatigued. What is your specific adaptation from the stimulus that you want to have? Because if you don't know, then you're just biding time, and it can be very enjoyable, and it can also be healthy. But like, what if there's an orthopedic problem on the knee, and you got to get your biking in, or you got to get your running in, and you're going to turn that thing to powder? Like, once the joint is gone, it's really hard to keep going.
How do you know, most people walking around, right, they know their painful weaknesses, right? You know, what's achy, what's sore, you know, what they heard in class the other day,
right?
Whatever it might be. And I feel like, you know, those are the obvious ones, but working with you, I know that like those usually don't end up being the ones that matter as much as like these hidden weaknesses. Like, oh God, what's a good example of me, right? Like you'll have me turn my head in one direction,
and
I'll go weak.
The other night,
Your
foot
okay, my foot
this past Saturday, right? So there is a hierarchy, right? And anyone saying that the different parts of your body heal at different rates.
Yeah.
If they don't know that, then it's like saying, well, I'm going to wait for my tooth to heal.
Yeah. So how do you like identifying these weaknesses that we might not be aware of, right? Because like you found the weakness in my that started in my foot, but
it only took me 30 years to get there. Right?
Yeah, but there'd be like, there's no way I would ever have been like moving around at the gym and be like, it's my foot that's actually making my knee hurt when I squat.
You might though, and that's why it's like having that whole grid process of like, okay, when am I going to do single leg plantar flexion? Calf raises on one side where I'm blocked at the knee versus standing. When am I going to do single leg knee extension? When am I going to do single leg knee flexion or leg curls, right? When am I going to do and parse out this stuff to see if I feel it in a different place in my body? Because if I feel it in a different place in my body, they're neurologically connected because you've perceived them. That's the only way you can perceive it, if it's neurologically connected.
Okay.
So then if I'm looking at manual resistance now, strength training, with me using my body as the exercise device, I can see how well you can control it by just pushing on it. Like, can you hold it here, right? And if you can't do it, and your whole body changes how it tries to recover, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel that. You're going to be like, wow, this is not really that easy to do. So there are definitely hierarchies in a body that is a whole separate idea. Just putting it very simply, think about if you're going to use your feet, is it the same sensation you would have if somebody were to touch your tummy or your belly? I have kids, right?
Yeah.
Touch your belly versus touching your face.
Sure.
Versus your hands touching something. Your brain almost automatically can tell you, okay, this is a can. I could close my eyes and I could hold the can and be like, oh, that's a can. Different sensation, different neurological linkage, different results. So hand injuries are not the same as foot injuries, are not the same as eye injuries. They're different materials. They have different sensors, and they're going to do different things to the body.
So is this why, it's super random, but I was just thinking about people doing air squats. When people start doing a lot of air squats, their hands will move around, right? They might be here, then they'll move to here, then they'll move to their belly, then they might move them up. Is that because it's actually causing change in, like, you know, me moving my hands around and what my hands are touching or not touching, and how they're positioning my shoulders is actually affecting something within my legs while I'm squatting?
Well, I mean, that's a huge opportunity, right? So anything that you change, there is no such thing as a real repetition that can be repeated. There will never be a point in time where you're the same person that you were doing one rep and completing a rep as the moment before. Even like the part of the rep, you have different cells that have since lived and died that have to communicate to each other. And the only thing that's pretty much the same are going to be your neurons. So in
reality, if you do one set of 12 leg extensions, really all you have is 12 completely separate reps that have built upon each other that have created an average, and that's typically what people take at the end of it. It's
Right.
I did 12 single reps average, right? But you might have been looking to the left for one of those reps because someone just walked in the gym, and that last rep that gets really hard, you might have lifted your head up, right? Or you might have bared down on something, and you're actually changing
the intent,
how your body does that rep.
Completely. So if I decide to go up, you're talking about how am I spinally extending? How am I extending this whole thing? And then how does it relate to this leg control? Because if I do one leg, guess what I also have to do? My body's controlling rotation and extension. It's controlling all these other pieces. So what we believe, and actually what we have seen in the literature, is something called peripheral nerve trauma. So if you hurt a nerve, it's a very loose term, right? Because what's really cool about a human is you start out as this like one cell, and then all of a sudden you're grown out
double and double.
You just keep growing, right? So your materials are grown out of each other. So they're embedded. These nerve cells are embedded in all these other tissues. So if you sprain an ankle, if you tear something, if you strain something, that could be a peripheral nerve trauma, of which now that original sensor that was saying, hey, this is the info that I got to pay attention to, may not be connected to the original neuron that it was connected to. So it's like, oh, I got to relearn this somehow.
Yeah.
And that's why learning positions under load and seeing what happened can be so valuable for people.
So to get some tools in people's tool belts, what is one of the best ways for a jiu-jitsu person? You've worked with me for a long time, so you know a lot of the positions that we get put in. You've watched a lot of jiu-jitsu. What's one of the best ways for us to do a self-assessment or debrief of our weaknesses, or even find strengths at that point in time?
Yeah, I already have a whole Google Doc created. Okay. So I'll give you access to that Google Doc.
Sweet.
And your entire...
We'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, and then from there, we can put together how I would actually debrief it.
Okay.
And so, and what I would pay attention to, so that they know exactly what I'm thinking about. And remember, every one of those exercises is a construct. So it's about how it relates to you. This is only... they're only described as try this, is an invitation to movement. And that's why inviting yourself to explore what you're capable of, start slow, start controlled, start light, and then start testing yourself and keep modifying it.
I think a big takeaway for me is like how unique everything is to every person.
Yep.
Like me and you might have a similar injury that's diagnosed as the same injury, right? Mm-hmm. We'll use a very common one in jiu-jitsu, like a medial meniscus tear. Bucket handle medial meniscus tear. Mm-hmm. Super common in jiu-jitsu and a lot of sports, right? Yep. If I had it and you had it, a doctor might diagnose us with the same injury. But the way our bodies perceive that injury and the weaknesses that it creates, given the map of the world that our bodies have and that they've come from, is totally unique. Where there might be something, because it's a similar mechanism of injury, right? There might be some things on average that will work for both of us, but there might be some very unique things that I might have to do because I also turned my foot into a taco at one point in time in my life.
You could punch people with your toes,
which happened once. No, I can do that. I could take my foot and like curl my toes in and make it a fist. I could stand on it like a monkey, but I actually threw someone and my foot was like on its side and it collapsed in on itself like a taco.
Yeah. What you're talking about is what is referred to as mapping. So in a human, there are several maps within your nervous system, which is supposedly a representation of how your nerves would control those parts of the body. And a majority of it is, I think there's like 7 maps that I know of right now. There's like some in the spinal cord, there's some in your brainstem, there's some in your cerebellum, some in the sensory cortex. There's all these different places, and they all have to like talk to each other. and they're all based upon your history. And we talked about that allostasis, like what is someone's cumulative trauma through life, or what are they used to doing? Because if somebody comes in, they're used to training, I'm not going to treat them the same as someone who's just starting out, who's terrified of lifting a weight.
Yeah.
It's just not the same organism, right? Not the same stress level. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
So then what we do is we're trying to find that baseline of where do we start? And the most simplistic ways to start is going to be to organize how you move and how you feel. And anyone can do that. What I do is I try to find how all those other pieces of the nervous system and how your physiology line up towards creating the adaptation that you're looking for in way less time. And like what people spend months doing may sometimes, not all the time, because it depends on what was damaged. But if it's a control problem, we can do it in reps. Would have taken months. Yeah. And other people that are involved in this podcast have already felt that. And then we have, not only are we giving it the random 10 reps, 3 sets kind of stuff. Yeah. We have specific loads that we're looking at. Yeah. We have specific rep ranges that you are tolerating with the specific load, and we know exactly how long the rest period should be because we actually time them.
Yeah. And even like speed of rep, right? Like the eccentric, the concentric, the isometric. Like
we time how long it takes you to complete the set. Yeah. So we have a breakdown of this right one is doing this many reps in this time frame. So we know the reps per second. We know the pounds per second. Yeah. Because that is also rate of force development, which you're going to need if you're going to have any power expression or velocity. So it's like we know the metrics that we're looking for, which most people are not looking for in our space.
Yeah. Interesting. So we've talked a lot about like, identifying these weaknesses, and we talked some about body adaptation, but what about like just monitoring your own training, your own progress, your own recovery to prevent some of this stuff?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've been there in my youth as well, where I'm like, the stronger I get, the better I'll be. Right. Yeah. And I can tell you, I didn't feel any worse than when I was at my strongest. Like I was lifting my heaviest loads. I was fortunate enough to work with some people that trained at Westside. So I learned a lot of like different Westside methods.
I mean, you definitely see there's a give and take. Like I've known a lot of power lifters over the years that they're like,
super
strong, but their blood pressure and resting heart rate is through the roof.
Right. And it's like, so how do I feel okay? And what's really cool about humans is that you're innately going to know if you're okay. Yeah. And like, how does somebody even know that they're okay? Yeah. Like all of a sudden it's just like, oh, I'm okay. Well, how do you know that? Right.
But can it be like one of those things too, where like, I feel fine, but if a doctor asked me like, hey, how do you feel? Like, how do your shoulders feel? I'm like, now that you say it, my shoulders feel a little like stiffer than normal.
Feel stiff,
right? Yeah. Like where a lot of times you think you're okay, but then when you truly think about it, like how does my knee feel?
Yeah, and so that's the other observer, right? Okay. So when you're observing yourself, you're only capable of dealing with the information that's coming in to say like, how am I debriefing and feeling, right? When you have another observer, that's another benefit of having a coach, right? Any coach at all. The whole point is you have another observer to ask you questions to dig deeper about problems and solutions. That's all that's really happening. So when we're looking at, okay, my own training, number one, what do I want to have happen? If I want to be able to do this thing, right? Like I want to be able to say, my whole goal is to be able to keep my hips healthy for a lifetime. Now I have a time frame. Now I know that I have to be able to handle a whole bunch of different positions. Do I really need to be able to squat 500 pounds? Probably not, right? If I need to be able to do my daily workload, well, what is my job? Like, what am I picking up? What do I have to be able to tolerate? And can I even tolerate that? Yeah. So first is the fundamental objective. What do I want to be able to do? So now I'm aligning all of my training to do that stuff in those positions for that time frame at that load.
It's like, hey, I know I'm going to want to do jiu-jitsu. I want to do jiu-jitsu. I know that jiu-jitsu is going to put me in vulnerable positions I want to survive in, right? That could be like extreme spinal flexion.
Mm-hmm.
It could be extreme like spinal rotation.
Yeah.
But like, how do I, and it's very dependent on how that person plays, just like how you're talking about how unique everyone's body is. Like everyone's jiu-jitsu is totally different.
Yeah.
Like big 225-pound dude, probably not getting stacked very often because he's effing huge, right?
Yep.
Big dudes that have huge bellies are actually hard to stack because their belly stops them from flexing so much, right? So like fat dudes don't get stacked that much.
Yeah.
Their load's going to go to their head though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like everyone is different. I think we kind of look at our own jiu-jitsu games, especially experienced athletes, and we can look at like, hey, based on how you play and the positions that you like playing,
who are the
like,
best
it's just
people?
different.
Who are the best? Who are the elite of the elite in almost any sport? The people that are freaking out and stressed, or the people that are cool, calm, and collective?
Yeah.
Right. So what we're talking about is patience through a process of observation and being very specific when there's no real guidelines and no strict regimens. How do you become the best at jiu-jitsu? Is it just one path? There's never just one path.
For sure.
So then it's like, what are you hoping to do? And then from there, are you okay discovering stuff? Because do people believe that what normal people believe that I've found is that their idea of how quick it takes for a transformation or recovery to happen is such a compressed window, when if you ever hurt a ligament, that's like 3 to 6 weeks minimum of like even having that thing recover at all, if it even recovers.
Yeah.
So knowing those types of timelines and setting those expectations, so if you can't load that stuff correctly, you could be doing more damage than good. But if you start light and you start controlling it, you're going to be really good. But if you're moving fast, it's like saying, I'm going to take this weight, right? Because people think that 5 pounds is 5 pounds. I'm going to take 5 pounds and set it on your hand versus throwing it on your hand.
Have you seen The Punisher when he like the guy's dying and he puts a grenade in the guy's fully extended hand and pulls the pin and just walks away and he's just holding the grenade and the Punisher knows like the guy's gonna drop it and make himself explode, but it's like 5 pounds up here is way different than 5 pounds,
right?
Dude, and I will give you the perfect example. I used to Peloton a lot. I still love Pelotoning. And there's some like Peloton workouts where you use the little like dumbbells on it. And they're like, the dumbbells come in like 1 pound, 2 pounds, 5 pounds, 7 pounds. I'm like, I'm getting the 7 pound ones. Like 7 pounds, it's nothing. Dude, like
on like rep
I'm
1 billion.
I want the 2 pound ones, please. Because they're like
you're holding it. Right?
Yeah.
It depends on on where you're holding it, and it depends on if you're accelerating it.
Yeah.
So like
it's like hold it out. Here's one thing. Okay, now do little arm circles. You're like, oh God.
I mean, it's like people are like, okay, basic physics, right? Work equals force times distance.
Yeah.
If I have a lot of distance,
you're
like I got to really come up with some force.
Yeah.
Right, because it's a multiplier. Acceleration and thinking of what weight is. What is weight? It's mass times gravity. Gravity is an acceleration.
Yeah.
So the faster you move something, once it hits another object, the force becomes very high. So it's like understanding that, hey, if I move things slower and I start closer to my body with control, with lighter loads, and then gradually work up, I'm going to be pretty safe with stuff.
What are some of your favorite ways to like, I guess, qualitative and quantitatively assess your recovery, right? I know everything from like, doing a body scan, right? I'd be like, my shoulder hurts. I like doing NSDR a lot, where like I'll lay down and I'll actually do a body scan, like starting at my like big toe. And I'm like, I actually think about how my left big toe feels right now, right? Everything to like the latest craze, like heart rate variability and resting heart rate averages and the push for blood work and all that stuff. Like what are your primary ones that you look at like a daily basis, and what are ones that you maybe look at over a longer period of time to assess like how is my body doing?
Great question. I'd say that the first thing that I like to categorize is a laundry list of my injuries. It's usually where my control is going awry. I mean,
and you're talking about like injuries since the dawn of time?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, put it this way: it was like I had a lack of ability to control my recovery through my right foot because I fractured it when I was 4 and I didn't discover it until about 2 years ago. So I'm like, oh, this is healed. I mean, this is no problem. I can jump easily off. I can move well off it, but my recovery for endurance wasn't there. So like, remember, there's force output, there's position, there's the endurance of it, and then there's the recovery of it, and then there's like power and speed. So it's like, oh, if I'm looking at these things, it usually starts where there's been a trauma. And very rarely has the information, how I control that area, has that recovered. And remember, because when people are like, oh, it's all connected, they believe it's all connected until their shoulder hurts.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, well, it really is all connected. That was proven a long time ago with basic neuronal experiments from Sherrington, Sir Charles Sherrington, in like the late 1800s to the early 1900s, where he like stimulated part of the neuron and like the whole nervous system lit up, right, with the way that he was looking at it.
I feel like your body, using an analogy that maybe someone's used before, I feel like your body in its life is just one giant chess game where every single move you make matters at some point in time.
It's a memory-based organism, right? So everything that we do is context based upon memory, even if it's non-conscious.
Yeah. And it's not like, hey, you get injured, you recover, and now you're starting a new game.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
you're always starting a new game, though. Like, that's what I think it's more accurate to say, like, each day, you have like I'm me, right? I have this memory of me being me or whatever, but you're still not the same person.
Yeah.
So it's like there are these unique challenges of, okay, I'm going to look at how my body is holding on to memory. Think of it like tissue PTSD. What was the trauma that was helping me learn to stay okay? Because it comes back to two separate things. Like, our body's always going to want to conserve calories so it doesn't starve, and it has to move about its environment safely so that it doesn't die, right? Yeah. So everything that I'm doing is, okay, I know that trauma is like 1 rep learning. I mean, it takes 1 rep. You stub your toe, you don't have to learn to like hop on your other foot. You just instantaneously learn to do it, and like, okay, there's a solution, right? So what are invitations to new solutions around the traumas that I had? So number 1, I look at my previous trauma. Number 2, I see, how do I move now? What is my load capacity to be able to handle doing something? Did it feel okay? And then overall, what happened the next day? So if I'm using those, then at least I have this idea of strength, endurance, control, and then how it relates to things that maybe I lost ability to detect accurately. So, and that's really what happens with trauma, is I think we just don't detect it accurately. So what we perceive isn't really what's happening.
Yeah. So based on all that, how is it best for a very, let's say a novice exerciser, a novice human, what's the best way for them to approach the whole gamut of exercise, everything between, whether it be strength training, speed training, mobility. I know we're not fans of stretching, making sure you have control on that. Like, what should your average Joe look to do if they don't have access to someone like you to help out?
Right. I think 2 things that I think are tremendously important to quality of life. Number 1, know your blood pressure. Okay. I mean, if your blood pressure is elevated, you can do some serious kidney damage, some eye damage.
And there's like serious ways to actually measure your blood pressure. And I heard, I think Peter Attia on this one. It's like, when you go to the doctor and you sitting in the clinic and then you get up and they walk you through the room and you're like, sit down, check your blood pressure. It's not an accurate representation of what your blood pressure is. You're supposed to be like, do it first thing in the morning. You're supposed to be calm, sitting down for 10 minutes straight, feet flat on the floor, hands like
repeatable too
at a certain spot, and then take your blood pressure.
Same time of the week.
Yeah.
Same day of the week. Yeah. And I'm also a real big fan of that being a blood draw too. So a regular CBC or CMP, if you're going to have your annual done by your doctor, what is something called your hemoglobin A1C, something to know exactly how your body is dealing with sugar. Right, because blood sugar is a really important factor for recovery, and then also if your body is not metabolizing fats well, because that can end up in stroke and heart problems, right? And that can happen as early as like mid 30s to 40. So it's like if we're really playing the long game, it's like, oh, here are things that I do. Blood pressure is something where, okay, make sure that you check your blood pressure every once in a while. Make sure that you're doing your blood work at least yearly, so that you have an idea of how it's changing over time. And then literally the grid system that we're going to be sharing with your audience is what I give all of my clients when they're out of town and they can't actually train with me. It's the debriefing system of, okay, do these things, list what happened, and now from here, is there any really huge discrepancies? And there's really simple ways to start making those discrepancies hopefully a little more symmetrical, or is there a trauma reason where they're never going to be the same, like a joint replacement or a major surgery or concussions or traumatic brain injury, right? Those things may permanently alter how somebody perceives their environment.
What is your approach on, we'll just classify it all as just workouts in the gym, meaning like a new person, a novice lifter, someone that's maybe been lifting for 1 or 2 years, they know the general mechanics of your standard exercises. They're knowledgeable on how to use a preacher curl machine. They know how to bench press, at least at a safe novice level. They're not a power lifter or official Olympic lifter. But what's your opinion on, finding a program online, like a generalized program, and, maybe because they're novice, they can make substitutions like, my back hurts when I deadlift, so I'm going to find a different way to work my posterior chain or hamstrings or whatever it might be, versus just coming up with a program and going to the gym and playing.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of context. Okay. And so any way to build a knowledge base of just what you feel safe with, what you feel comfortable with, that's the key to doing, right? So starting by even doing 2 exercises or 1 exercise, and then doing that daily where you're just changing your exercise, and like maybe a week from now I'll do that same exercise and see what happened, and then I'll just do another exercise the next day. Building these habits, right? Because if you're not fatigued, you can exercise every day, right? And as long as you're not just blasting yourself with fatigue, you can play on different exercise pieces or with a dumbbell in different positions daily. And I highly recommend starting with some machines where you can ask someone how to use the machine, right? And there's a lot of people in the gym usually to point you out how to set something up, and do it in a way where you feel comfortable. If you're taking action because you believe I need to be able to move better, how am I going to practice moving without moving, right? Or at least sitting still and resisting something.
The struggle that I've always had in the gym is like, I love like progressive overload, like linear training plans where every week I'm either going up reps or I'm going up sets, but I also like the play side of things. The challenge is like the progressive overload doesn't give me the play, and the play doesn't give me the context of, at least by the numbers, am I doing better? It gives me like the, am I feeling good? And does this feel good? But it's not like, am I improving? It's very hard to quantify, right?
Yeah, so I think it's important to have both, right? Like quality and quantity, right? How does somebody know something's better without being asked, is it better? Right? If you just look at the numbers and say, man, you're doing great, and they're like, awesome, they're limping away. Right? It's just like, wow, you just killed that squat, but you can't fall asleep because you're in chronic pain and you can't move your hip, right? So I would say that the quality and the quantity are just as important. So if you're going through a linear progression, or say you're one of my favorites, right? Hint to Travis Mash on this one, because he's doing a project that I'm a huge fan of, but he's also a fan of super training, which is this one book from the past of Mel Siff and Yuri Verkhoshansky. So Verkhoshansky was one of the creators of something called block periodization. And the block periodization plan was like, okay, we're going to do all endurance work like this, we're going to do power work like this, but each power block had its own progression in either total upper or lower extremity. Each velocity one had this type of
I think
deal.
that's how Juggernaut approaches their
so
program.
Verkhoshansky was supposed, I could be right, I don't think it was Vladimir Ishard. I think it was Verkhoshansky that was one of the pioneers of that approach. But like how they then said, what's your readiness state? And we're going to do this plan, and we have a progression for that plan. But it's all based upon where you feel you're at right now, to make sure that you can get the adaptations you're looking for in the readiness state that you're at, to not waste time. But that's an athlete-based approach. If you want to help with performance, if we're talking about just getting started in exercise, you're talking about feeling comfortable with what you're doing, making sure that eventually you can do one set, set being an organization of multiple times of doing that, the repetitions, right? So that's the organization of the set, if people don't know what a set is versus a rep, because that can happen. And then the frequency, how many times a week do I want to do this? If you're a little more trained, chances are you're going to do two to 4 times a week of resistance training, starting out around 2 times a week. Pretty good start, because it's a lot more than what they were doing previously. So
how no matter your training, you're bound to have some sort of incident happen, and there's a broad spectrum of
sports.
Sports
is healthy.
There's a broad incident of things. Everything from just like discomfort to major injury.
And the bone jetting out of the arm sideways kind of thing.
We were just talking about my friend Steve, who's on the podcast, and he dislocated his toe once. In one of our old mats, and it actually dislocated and also tore the skin. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen, but it was disgusting. But like it happens, right? Oh man, like how do you decide where you're on the spectrum? Like, is it going to impact you, and is it something that needs to be addressed, right?
Fantastic.
And I'll give you a great incident, right? Like, dude, my neck over the last 2 days have had a lot of discomforts. Like, I have a massive claw mark on one of the sides of someone like reaching out and just clawing me. And then I was doing front squats this morning, and the barbell had knurling in the middle.
Don't tell Aletha about that.
She saw that one. She's like, "What?" She's like, "We're going to Hawaii next week, and you have a giant scratch on your neck." I'm like, "Don't worry, it's from Steve." She's like, "A guy scratched your neck."
You should have seen the other guy.
And I was doing front squats, and the knurling on the bar tore up my neck. And then I got home, my dog gave me a hug, and my dog scratched the other side of my neck. And like, clearly that's just like discomfort. Things happen, someone hits you in your funny bone or gives you a little Charlie horse.
I would say there's definitely a hierarchy of traumas. I would say like traumatic brain injury, pretty high up there. Like if somebody's been concussed and blacked out, that's a brain injury.
We have a student who, one of our noon students, Joe, and he had one years ago. And it's fascinating working with him. He's a great student. Dude, he's strong and he's stable and he feels great on the mats, but all the time he's like, man, I don't have any balance and I'm so weak. And it's like, you might feel like you don't have balance and you might feel like you're weak. Like that might be the sensation that you're feeling, but let me tell you, my friend.
Imagine if you felt more connected. And that's where we're getting at, is the idea that, okay, there's been a traumatic brain injury. Has there been any type of auditory trauma? Has there been even long COVID with losing your sense of smell? These are all neurons that project how do you move in your environment to bring in that information in order to then execute what it is that you got to do. How do I do this thing as effectively as possible without having to think about it. I just want to do it, right? So I'd say there's anything that deals with the face and the head, like eye trauma, jaw trauma, inner ear trauma, head trauma.
Yeah.
Those are pretty, neck trauma, pretty high up there. Then I would put
I'm
feet and hands.
I'm the worst and best coach. Like if it's not your spine or your head, and someone gets hurt, I'm like, you're fine.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, are you bleeding out? Is your spine okay? Is your head okay? Is your heart okay?
Yeah.
We'll be good.
Right. Yeah. So if somebody has any type of genetic predisposition, like those are big, but like a nerve root problem.
Yeah.
If somebody have a couple of nerve roots, like say people call them like disc bulges, or somebody has some sort of bone growth in their spine and it's pushing against some nerves, that can be very challenging and take months to try to reorganize.
Yeah, well, one of our old judo coaches, training partners, it's actually Greg's son, Dylan. He had a bunch of like nerve issues out in his arm stemming from his shoulder, and that like it really bugged his arm.
Right. And that could also be from nerve root problems in the neck.
Yeah.
So it all depends on, okay, where is the movement organization having problems with the tissues?
Okay.
So it's really simply put, there are materials that you're made out of, how you control them, and then how do you feel? So those three things stacked up is always my guiding principles to how I'm training. Like where do I have known problems? How did it feel?
Yeah.
How did I control it? And I'm always looping back through those because, again, if something happened to the spine, like if it's an upper motor, being eyes, ears, nose, all these things that are like higher centers of the brain, if that's been traumatized, you're not going to perceive your environment. You're thinking it's going to be one thing, like your friend, right? But you're feeling something else, and he's not feeling that.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm disconnected from what's really happening, even though I feel this way. That's very common.
I think it's really important. You know, I lift most mornings by myself because Jeremy doesn't get up early enough at 6 a.m. to come lift with me.
Sick. He's sick.
Or he's sick. I'm just kidding.
Get healthy, man.
I'm just kidding. You're great. But yeah, I usually lift at like 5:30 by myself in the mornings. But Saturdays I lift with you, and it's great to have someone that, even though the skill set that you have, 80% of the stuff that you catch on, you don't need your skill set for. You'll be like, hey, you see your left heel's coming up when you're doing a hack squat. It's like, no, I didn't notice that. But,
training partners,
thanks for telling me.
Very helpful.
But I think sometimes like people forget. Sometimes your best training partner is just your phone.
Yeah.
Like
or a mirror.
Videotape yourself. A mirror's great too.
Yeah. And most people are just flexing in the mirror.
But it's one of the dude. It's even crazier in jiu-jitsu. Like, people don't realize what their body is doing.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, especially when I do judo, and I have to do it when I do judo because it's so much, everything's quicker, right? Jiu-jitsu, I can do a jiu-jitsu technique pretty damn slow, at least most of them.
Okay.
Judo is like you get to the point where like you get in and you're like, okay, now I need to throw the guy. Okay. You can't really throw someone slowly. And it's one of those things like my coach Greg would always
look really weird.
Yeah, I know. It'd be like, can you fly over me in slow motion?
Falling.
They're gonna fall at the speed of gravity or faster by the time they kind of get over that hump, right? But I've always struggled with, my judo coach cueing me and me getting his cues, like, hey, you're missing this step.
Yeah.
Or, hey, your hip's not getting in far enough. And what I would always have to do is, I'd be like, hey, can you just film me for a second? Mm-hmm. And then he would show me on film. I'd be like, I see what you're talking about now. Yeah. And then I could fix it like, boom, right away.
I think what you're really getting at is this idea of the invitation to move. And there's like a couple different people out there calling it different things, like different styles of coaching.
Yeah.
What somebody notices and asking questions about what they notice seems to be way more powerful than telling them how to do it. They call it an ecological approach to coaching, right? So I like to do that to myself while I'm training.
It's like the Socratic method.
It really is. Because
question.
Until they can deduce their own way to solve the problem, it's not theirs.
Yes.
It's only mine. So that if I want to make it sticky, I want to make that solution stick.
Correct.
They have to come up with the solution, even though I'm like, I want to tell them like, hey, if you do this and this and this. Yeah.
This comes up in in kids' classes all the time where like a parent will be like, well, why aren't you correcting my kid and making them do it correctly?
Yep.
It's like, because they're not going to learn it that way. Like they need to, I will insert myself when I need to, but if they can self-organize and figure that out on their own, right?
It's emergent.
They will do it better and it will stick better.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I could take your math homework and write down all the answers.
Yep.
But if I have you suffer through it a little bit, I kind of guide you along the way. I give you questions that are going to help you. You'll learn it way better.
Chat GPT wrote that. You didn't write it.
For sure.
GPT did. So you're telling me that this is now your essay.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
It's not your essay, right?
Yeah.
So how do you go through the grind of finding solutions and help them with giving invitations for different ways to move? That's why I love personally delivering my own constraints.
Yeah.
So if I'm choosing better ways to learn, and this is exactly what I do with my exercise, it's anything for an adaptation, any skill, I'm going to take part of that and either play a game with it. That's why the play is so important. Or I'm going to constrain it to a smaller part of that whole skill.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, instead of swinging the golf club, I'm going to jam something underneath my front arm. So now I can't move this front arm. I have to move my whole torso through. So now I have to get torso rotation and I can't just use my arms, right?
Yep.
Like, so what is the constraint to help learn the skill and then take it back to the whole skill in a separate situation and scenario? So I'm a big fan of ecological coaching and whole method by constraining the movements.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm actually doing a how to coach jiu-jitsu seminar tomorrow, and both of those are part of that.
Well, what was it? Gray, what's his first name?
Rob Gray.
Rob Gray. He wrote a book on ecological coaching.
Yeah.
And James Gibson is like the pioneer of that type of idea. It's fascinating.
It's a great tool in the toolbox.
Right. And plus empowering people with taking action, rewarding people by taking action. And that's why it's like, if you're not starting to learn how to move, how are you going to get better at moving?
I like giving people the example of when I learned how to handstand walk, right? It's very simple, right? All I did was, hey, I want to go from here to the end of the room, and I'm just going to handstand walk. Yeah. And as I keep going, every time I fall, my body brings up another little efficiency that I can work on.
Right.
At some point in time, do I get fatigued and I can't do it and I need to come back to it tomorrow? For sure, but your body will figure it out.
Right. And I love the idea of thinking, okay, here are these little pieces that I can do now.
Like your body wants to make things easy.
Oh, completely. It wants to make things easy.
Efficient.
It's looking for, again, how do I move in my environment? How do I conserve calories, right? And what extrapolates this whole idea of training is like, number one, you can have a whole bunch of analgesics, things that help with pain, right? So when people normally come into us, they're like, I have this pain, right?
Tylenol.
Right. So there's a whole bunch of ways for pain, right? You have shots. Yeah. You have people that can massage it. You can do foam roll. You can do stick. You can do chiropractic. You can do stim. You can do all these things, right? None of them are looking at how you move to how you feel and quantifying and qualifying it, and then having how does a person build the molecular machinery like muscle, tendon, ligament. It doesn't happen without the stresses of force into the tendon. So unless you're actually putting force into it, it's not adapting, and you are not solving the movement side of that problem, of the pain movement problem. So it's like, there are other things that lead to pain that cannot be solved by exercise, but you want to learn how to move and you want to actually progress your movement, you better have a system in place to do it. And the system that everyone can do, we're just going to hand to you. And if you need extra help from things that you can't observe by yourself and you want another coach to observe that, to help make change happen faster, that's what we do. So it's like there's huge opportunities for everyone to just do it in their own home with even an ankle weight and maybe a band, right? So it can be very low tech. And if you have access to a place like Social Candy or any gym, Now you got some machines to quantify the load better. Cool, right? It's all about how are you going to start and how are you going to be consistent so you can see those changes over the time, because like 7 to 10 days is all it takes to change.
One of my coaches, Chad Lyman, he oversees C4C BJJ, so the association that we have to train police officers. One of his sayings, I don't know if it's actually his or if he got from somewhere else, but it's train a little, a lot. Train. You just have to train a little bit, but frequency.
Well, I mean, think about return on investment.
Exactly.
It's like, do you want to have a daily return of like 1% and know what happened throughout the entire year? Or
it's that whole like, do you want a penny a day or a dollar like a year or whatever it is, right?
It's like the return is massive if you just learn how to move, because what is being trained off of just moving your body, right?
Yeah.
You're building bone. You're strengthening tendons, you're helping ligaments, you're training the powerhouses of the cell to become more efficient, you're getting rid of waste products, right? So it's just making you completely more efficient, and then you're going to sleep better. I mean, when you see people that look like they age fast, either they're doing a whole ton.
Not me, I age like fine wine.
Or they're doing nothing, right?
Yeah.
There is a Goldilocks zone, and the only person that's going to know the Goldilocks zone is you.
Yeah.
So, no one else can offload that. No one else can take that from you. They can only assist you. And the coaches that actually care are the ones that are like, do all these things. I want to empower you to do these things.
Yeah.
And I'm going to help you change in the least amount of time possible, with complete honesty and transparency.
Yeah. Nice. Oh man. What else do you have to share? Anything else before we go into some big questions at the end? Big, maybe not serious questions.
Well, I mean, we'll have our own podcast relaunching in a little bit. If people are, they want more information about different pathologies that maybe that they have been through, expectations of healing, recovery, how to progress those things. We're revamping our Biz Body podcast, which was originally just for gym owners and personal trainers, and how to advance their own practice and help people. We're shifting that more towards exercise practitioners and people that are enthusiasts that have a lot of experience, that want to update all the latest on any types of trauma, how things heal, how to maybe do specific case studies on how to progress those things and what to look for, and then who to actually talk to, what type of health professionals to actually talk to. So that's coming up very shortly.
And if people want to work with you directly, based out of Mequon, Wisconsin, you have Body Activation.
Body Activation LLC, that's on Instagram. Body-activation.com is our website. Everything that we do is we have free consults for anyone that if you have an hour, I have an hour, we can talk about what you're going through and how you want to progress. We work with people one-on-one, hourly and half hourly, but then we also do complete app-based training modules.
And you have a gym.
Yeah, and we have a gym, so we do in-house stuff. It's 3,500 square feet with all different types of machines, dumbbells, you name it. We got different variants.
And you help the whole spectrum. Whether it be a high school athlete to someone in their late ages to
80-year-olds, all the
major
way to
injuries to professional athletes.
Yeah, I mean, I have a person right now that can barely walk, and we're meeting with the neurologist because he's actually making progress with something called transverse myelitis, where normally people lose the ability to walk pretty rapidly. Nice. He's been working his tail off in order to stay walking, and we have one of our MLB guys that just went out early to camp. So it's like we have professional athletes, high school athletes, and we have the people that want to be able to walk for the rest of their lives.
Nice.
So
cool. Well, let's wrap this up. We'll do 3 rapid fire questions each.
Cool.
I'll start.
Stare down.
If you could work with, in your professional capacity, any professional athlete ever, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, geez.
Who would you want to help?
You know, just because he was a childhood hero, Robin Yount.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, Robinade. Who doesn't want some Robinade,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. What is your what's your favorite way?
Oh, hold on a second.
Yeah.
And if Robin Yount, if you're listening, I got to meet you someday because
Yeah.
you're the man.
What is your favorite way to recover?
My favorite. Oh wow, favorite.
And it can be
way to
recover from anything. Like what's your favorite like just way to?
I have a business
chill
partner that works on me.
Okay.
And when I get specific about that, it's amazing to have somebody actually find your weak spots, because when all of a sudden you can control it, my HRV improves, my heart rate improves,
Nice.
my recovery improves. But like what I do for myself, it's my nighttime routine.
Yes.
If I don't play some guitar and I don't do breathing, I feel like my night's incomplete and I don't rest well.
Nice. And then what's your number one book you would recommend to the general public?
General
On
public.
anything. It could be
John Cleese,
What's that?
Creativity.
Ooh.
Simple, small. I love, if you like Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Okay.
And Search for the Holy Grail, Life of Brian, that kind of
Sweet.
stuff. One of the creators of Monty Python, very simple, but
Yeah.
and I would say that it's something to really think about.
Nice. All right. Lay 3 on me.
3 on you. Okay. Number 1, what's your protein number?
What is my protein number? Like how many grams protein do I get a day?
Yeah.
I try to get 1 gram per body weight. So I try to hit 180.
So anyone knows about recovery, they're going to know these 2 numbers. Okay. What's your water number?
How much water? 128 ounces.
So instantaneous, right? Now,
But like I wouldn't count this of water.
yeah. Okay. So I'm a big fan of.
I also
knowing
pee
those 2
all of the
numbers.
time.
Like,
The second I get off this podcast, I'm gonna go pee.
I'm going to fight you for the bathroom.
An hour is hard. Anyways,
Lastly, okay, this is a 2-parter. Boneless chicken wings or bone-in chicken wings?
boneless or bone-in chicken wings? Man, bone-in.
Bone-in. And now, buffalo or Jamaican jerk rub?
Oh, dude, they're both good. Like if they're both on the menu, I would probably get 6 and 6.
Yeah.
It also really depends where it's from.
Ranch or blue cheese then?
I prefer
Ranch, yeah.
But I like buffalo, especially if they put the buffalo on, but then also grill the buffalo sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm a big fan of any sauce on my wings getting like re-grilled and not just be slobbered on. That was a good one though.
So, lastly, out of every machine that we've worked on together, is there a favorite?
Like every weightlifting machine. That's really hard. Can we put it to a body part?
Okay.
Like
your favorite leg machine?
Favorite leg machine is probably the man. I like a pendulum squat.
Pendulum squats are nice.
Because I think it's hard to get that pendulum squat feel without a pendulum squat.
Right. Yeah. Smooth. Real smooth.
I like it. And that could be the Panada or the Paramount. I think I like the Paramount because it's older and it seems way more shady. I like the fact that I might actually, I feel like I like the fact that
nostalgic.
Well, I might actually die using it. It's like it's a big draw.
You may be crushed.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big draw to me using it. The risk factor.
What's really cool is that I just got the Jammin'.
The squat.
Squat.
That one is
machine.
also super shady looking.
But guess what? So I just picked it up, and I found out that I realized now where I recognize it from. It was, we had one in our high school, and I realized
You just used it decades ago,
dude, that was the one from my high school. He bought it from Sheboygan North High School.
That's crazy.
So I was like, holy crap, this is the leg press that I had in school.
That's crazy.
So I was like, okay, that's too much.
Cool.
So
That's cool. We should probably hit that tomorrow. We should probably talk about working out after this.
yeah, for sure.
Cool.
For sure.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate all of the work that you've done on me, all the workouts that we've done. And, I hope anyone who's out there injured, looking to get back on the mats, stay on the mats, increase performance, gives you a visit.
And man, these things are amazing.
Dude, Element's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
So good.
Oh, so good.
This is not an ad.